패널 디스커션에서는 앞서
Well, this discussion will be joined by our international speakers virtually. Channel 1 is Korean, Channel 2 is English. And please use the interpretation device for the interpretation service. Let us begin panel discussion. Thank you very much. Are you enjoying the session? We are joined by a very special guest today. I think, well, probably first ever in the history of the World Ocean Forum, we are joined by 30 high school students from the city of Sejong. Please give them a big round of applause. I think the subject might be a bit unfamiliar, and especially bio. But this will be a great opportunity for them to learn and get interested in the field of biotechnology and bioscience. I always say that in order to realize your dream, you first need to have a dream. Without a dream, you cannot realize that dream. The first step is to have a dream. So I think that is why we are so excited to have the high school students here. Thank you. And let us begin our panel discussion. Professor Huan, we were told that he would not be able to join us, but thankfully he is here with us. So I would like to turn to our speakers for any additional comment they didn't have time to cover in their presentation. And since we have two speakers who are joining us virtually, I believe after panelists comment, we can turn to our speakers. We are joined by, as panelists, Mr. Kyung Man, the CEO of Science and Technology Strategy Institute, STSI. And we are also joined by Mr. Chun Byung-yeop, the CTO of QBM. And we are also joined by Professor Hong Ji-won of Gyeongbuk National University. And we also have three speakers present here virtually or in person. Professor Herbert Waite, Professor Juan Luis Gomez Pinchetti, as well as Professor Kim Jong-sung of Seoul National University. Let me briefly introduce our panelists. Dr. Kyung Man received his degree in biotechnology at Korea University. He served as head of the Biotechnology Division at the Korean Institute of Science and Technology Evaluation and Planning, and served as a Marine Biotechnology Deputy Director for about 10 years at the Korean Institute of Marine Science, Technology and Promotion. Currently, he has established a Science and Technology Strategy Institute, and he is performing various projects such as Marine Biocluster Formation and Marine bio-Infra feasibility study. As for Mr. Chun Byung-yeop, he studied business administration at Chungang University, and he started his business after his experience at Hanwha Group, and he succeeded in IPO. And he founded a number of venture companies such as Sescom, Market Point, and QMTL, as well as QBM. And QBM is a company that focuses on the research of marine minerals acquired through deep water sea extraction. QBM is currently working with the National Marine Biodiversity Institute of Korea to research biopeptides and other marine biomaterials. Last but not the least, Professor Hong Ji-won received his bachelor's and master's degrees from Korea University, and Hong then obtained his PhD from Seoul of National Sciences at the University of Dundee. And after completing his doctorate work, he began his career as a researcher at the Department of Biology at Kyungbu National University and the National Marine Biodiversity Institute of Korea. And he joined a faculty member of the university, and he acts as the director of research in the Advanced Bio Research Center at Kyungbu National University. As I mentioned at the start of this session, as you know, the theme of this session is Marine Bio Sustainable Future Growth Engines. Although we are at such an initial stage of growth. This is a session to explore ways for the bio and especially marine bio industry in Korea. What tasks we have at hand, and the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries and various government and research organizations should do to support such a growth of the marine bio industry. I think, well, you can directly address these questions, or, well, if you have any additional comment as to the presentations, then please feel free to do so. Let me first turn to Mr. Yu and Dr. Yu. Good afternoon. I'm Kyung Man of Science and Technology Strategy Institute. Well, moderator gave me 2 questions, so I would like to share with you my personal opinion as well as my experience as the one who is working with 15 different government organizations. And there are various organizations, government organizations, which are interested in biotechnology. And we are working with even Fire Prevention Agency as well as the police agencies of Korea. Bio is a critical industry for the future of the nation. And the bioindustrial technology is strongly sponsored and pursued and supported at a strategic level by the government. From the perspective of the entire bio industry, marine bio, especially the support of the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, seems to be focused on the applications rather than the basic research itself. But the thing is that we are still sticking at the basic as well as the fundamental enabling technologies and the researches. And as for the challenges and tasks at hand for us to revitalize the marine bio industry, I believe the first task is to lay an institutional ground, to lay a foundation at an institutional level. Blue Bio 2016 and another framework plan I formulated for the facilitation and the promotion of the marine bio industry. But what was missing is the legal foundation or legal framework. With no legal foundation, we created, in collaboration with the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, a comprehensive plan. And with no such legal foundation, it was quite difficult for us to secure a long-term budget, although there is marine biodiversity and marine bio-related code and act in Korea. But in addition to that, we need some promotion act. So this is for the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries to come up with a long-term strategy and the long-term framework. What is really important is to have a promotion act, because that is a special act in terms of enactment that comes before any other basic act. So I believe we need such a legal foundation, and once we have such a legal foundation, the next task is in terms of building a ground and doing the groundwork. Although we are in the early stage, I have supported the creation of various bioclusters, and I am the one who is behind the planning of the ozone bioclusters in Wonju as well. And I strongly believe that we need marine biocluster, at least in the East Sea, the West Sea, and in Jeju Island, as well as in Busan Island. So we need to have 4 marine bioclusters to accumulate technologies and knowledges and know-hows with the sponsorship of the government for the manufacturing, processing, and the startups and incubation and so on. I believe the next step is to create along the coastal areas 4 marine bioclusters. Once this is done, and once we have the all legal foundation, legal framework for the Framework Act, Enforcement Decree, and the administrative decree, then the government will make an investment in earnest. And there was an adjustment of the budget and to increase the budget for Marine Bio, I believe we need to have a stronger ground because at least for the long-term budget allocation, what is really important is to have a clear roadmap. Only after we have the institutional ground and legal ground, we can apply for the budget, sufficient budget, and we'll be able to secure enough resources. I have been serving as the member of an expert committee at the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. Most of the time when I go there, when it comes to the resource allocation, you should come up with the specifications, what kind of talent you need for how long and for what purposes. Otherwise, there would not be any resource allocation. So I think the Ministry of Science and Technology is there for the enabling technology development and the enabling and the basic research. That's why I think the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries should focus more on applications, creating the legal foundation, and securing the budget as well as the talent. So this is my comment. And comment for the first question, and as for the second question, the role of the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries for the promotion of the marine bio industry and the direction to pursue. As you can see, I am the chair of the committee, member of the National Science and Technology Standards Classification System. The thing is that marine bio does not have any clear classification or standard. Many people believe that marine bio is the only part of bio, so there is no need for any specific standard and classifications for marine bio. I don't think, that is true unless you do the proper categorization and the classifications as well as the standardization. Then you cannot secure sufficient budget to attract businesses into this area. Well, there are two big pillars in bio. Even within the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, there is the Bio-Resources Division and a Bio-Ecosystem Resources, but they seem to be merged into one. So I believe there should be an update in the governance within the ministry. And the roles and responsibilities should be clearly defined within the relevant department of the MOF. So the first is to define the scope as well as the roles and responsibilities. And the second, this is in part my personal opinion, and this is something I share as a strategy with the relevant department and government organizations. This might be a bit controversial. Currently, the focus of the government is biomedicine, and marine biofood, and marine bio environment, energy, and marine biochemistry. Well, only these four areas are the focal areas of the government's support when it comes to marine bio. I clearly understand the need for doing something on the environmental front as well as the energy front. And food, chemistry, and the chemical products, they are very lucrative, and they offer such a great economic opportunity. That is why. But the thing is that the approach is too conventional, as mentioned by Professor Huan. If you take an approach as a biomass, then this is the purely bio subject. And adhesive of the muscle, if we focus solely on that, people believe that, this is the traditional and purely bio research item. But when it comes to the interworkings and the applications, then well, people believe that, well, that is a new emerging research areas. When it comes to the scientific research, well, we are not leading the world. If we go for a purely bio approach, then we would not win this market and this opportunity. And in the new bio industry, is about the structure, functionality, and the interworkings of the marine bio resources. And I believe rather than focusing solely on the traditional bio industry, well, we should widen our perspective so that we can encompass various sectors and ideas, and we can engage all different sorts of sectors. Well, we might be able to use the seaweed energy, but we also need to think about how to capture, store the energy from the seaweed. Well, this might be a great example. Due to time constraints, I'd like to end here. And another point I'd like to highlight is
so the first generation biotechnology, and now we move into the second generation biotechnology, especially the marine bio or marine mimicry. So I think we really have to make a quick shift in order to gain national competitiveness. Thank you, Mr. Yu. So he really set the stage for the panel discussion, and it was pretty long, but I think somehow he gave us a very comprehensive overview of why we organize this kind of session and why we need to have this kind of discussion. So our time is up to 3:30, right? So we have about 30 minutes or 40 minutes left. So I may have to limit the comments by panelists, so within 5 minutes, please. So Dr. Yu talked about our institutions, the frameworks, the budgeting, and also the government assistance. And we really need government assistance, and we have to establish some law and regulation. So we have the samples of marine animals, about 560,000 kinds, and we have to develop the archive for that. Still, I think we have a long way to go for a database. So we need some financial and human assistance. And this is not something that private companies can do. So government, I believe, should be involved. And also from the first generation bio, including the red bio and white bio, we have to make a quick shift to the second generation marine bio. So that was his comment. Thank you very much for your suggestions. Now the second panelist, Dr. John. I am the sole representative of private industry here in this panel. And we have many high school students in the audience. So if you want to build a career in marine biology, and if you do have question for that, I will say yes. It's very, very promising. In fact, one of the most promising career in Korea is secondary battery. Do you know the total business volume for the secondary battery in Korea? It exceeded 100 trillion won. It really grow leaps and bounds, but I believe 10 years or 20 years down the road, the future of Korea is no longer with semiconductor, but with bio industry. That's my conviction. That's why I'm involved in bio. Then what's marine bio? Why do we have to pursue marine bio? Briefly speaking, the traditional bio industry, I believe it was more about developing energy sources. So the focus was on energy source. So between the 1990s and 2000s, because we experienced the oil shock, so we tried to utilize the marine resources to develop energy. So here energy is like energy as a protein or energy that can replace oil. And then the oil, but then that area started to decline. And recently, with the advent of the medical technology and healthcare industry, the bio industry is also growing rapidly. So I believe that bio industry already exceeded the size of the semiconductor industry. Biopharmaceutical, it's worth to be about 1,800 trillion won, and I believe that the marine bio will truly represent the big portion of this industry. And now where is the marine bio industry moving? I believe we are actually moving closer and closer toward biocompound. What's biocompound? Biocompound means biomolecules, the group of biomolecules, or the complex of biomolecules. So we have peptide and many other substances. For example, like the adhesive proteins in muscles that the speaker talked about. So this opens up a new future for marine bio. Now in marine bio, where can we discover compound and commercialize that? And how can we cultivate this industry to move toward the future? What's the direction of the R&D? In what area should we conduct R&D? So in order to realize so-called blue taxonomy, we have to establish the right priorities. So that's my comment. If you ask me the question, what does C signify to me? What's the meaning of the C? In fact, throughout the human history, C was the source of storing carbon. So the sea stored carbons and emitted oxygen. And with that, the atmosphere was formed and the earth was formed. In other words, the carbons that used to be stored in the sea are now emitted by humanity. And that caused a lot of problems. So we have to move carbon back to the sea. But is it possible? So someone talked about the sea and ocean's role in storing carbon. And in fact, the 50% of the carbons are stored under the sea. So it's actually impossible to virtually reverse this carbon flow back to the ocean by humanity. What humanity can do is just to reduce carbon emission. So oceans were the cradle of all living creatures, but at the same time, I believe that the ocean serves as a mediator that can keep the living creatures alive and also keep our ecosystem in balance. And in order to develop the marine bio and the developing policies, I think we have three considerations to bear. Up until today, we focused on efficiency in pursuing industrialization, in developing industries. Of course, efficiency is the key for industrialization. But then, the second priority was safety. And this safety, the concept of safety is very comprehensive, that there should be no accidents that can pose threat to living creatures, human beings, but also we have to make sure the safety of the natural environment. So the second priority is safety, and the third priority is sustainability. So I think these three things, efficiency, safety, and sustainability, these three are the things that we have to bear in mind when pursuing policies for marine bio industry. Thank you.
전병엽 대표님께
Please give him a big hand. Thank you very much. Dear high school students, can you see the future in marine bio? I am convinced that there is. I think by not in 20 years' time, but in 10 years' time, I think that future will become a reality. Well, 600 trillion automotive, semiconductor 800 trillion Korean won, and bio industry 1800 trillion Korean won. I think the key here is to secure raw materials. And the marine bio and the bio industry, in order to grow, we need to secure a stable supply of raw materials, and the source of that supply would be the ocean. And carbon is the issue at hand in front of the entire human community. So the answer is in bio. And please give him another round of big applause. Then I'd like to turn to Dr. Hong for his comment. I'm Hong Jae-won of Kyung National University. I'm very honored and privileged to be here today. And in addition to that, I previously worked for the NMBIK, so that is why I feel so much at home. Today, I'd like to talk about the importance of microalgae. Well, there are various areas of applications for microalgae, the feed for the fish stock, and the cosmetics and the medical field. In addition to that, microalgae absorbs carbon in the air for its growth. Well, it does photosynthesis, so it serves as a greenhouse gas reduction device. As for aquafeed and biofuel, I think the key is how to produce as much biomass as possible. An antioxidant, such as high value-added materials, if we are talking only about that, in order to commercialize the scale of the microalgae, well, you should be able to produce and you should be able to secure at least 1 ton of microalgae per year. No matter how good the quality of the marine bio resources is, if you cannot provide a biomass at scale at an opportune time, then you cannot do the commercialization. That's a reality. That is why in order for the successful commercialization of the microalgae, well, we should focus more on massive cultivation. In order to ensure high yield in a consistent manner, well, you need to go through optimization process as well as the planning. First of all, you need to develop and identify the species, microalgae species, for purpose. For specific purposes, you need to select a microalgae species. And for each species, you should be able to do the characterizations and building the database what is needed for it to grow, especially in the marine bio ecosystem is different from the onshore ecosystem. There is a various microalgae species which can do photosynthesis as well as various microsynthesis. And well, we need to also work on the improvement of the species, especially strains. But we are not allowed to cultivate and grow microalgae under the law. That is why we need to take a prudent approach as to this. In addition to that, we should explore various optimal environment, for example, pH and salinity, as well as the temperature. Well, such conditions should be maintained at a certain level. Carbon dioxide can be provided through in the air. However, landfill gas can be also utilized for that purpose. So as for microalgae, other than photosynthesis, we can use autoheterotropic. Heterotropic cultivation is essential and should be taken into consideration. And by doing so, we can increase the growth rate and bioproductivity of the microalgae. It is very efficient and effective. And acetic acid and the reverse osmosis concentrate and such wastewater or other byproducts from dairy farm can be utilized. And for the commercialization, one of the bottlenecks is the scalability. So scalability is directly related to the economic feasibility of various biomass-related products. So microalgae-based products should be cost-effective and should have price competitiveness. Only then we can grow this entire market. Microalgae is PBR and is cultivated in PBR or open raceway ponds. And in the case of PBR, you cannot control the environment, but it requires a huge initial investment, and the maintenance cost is quite significant as well. 90% of the commercial biomass production is done through raceway system. That is the reason why. So between the PBR and open pond raceway system, the decision is made as to which one is to use based on the level of expertise of the researchers. And high-density microalgae cultivation is another area of exploration these days. And I think although at upscale, the Institute it has produced various promising research outcomes which have been published by many renowned research journals around the world. And the Institute is very active in researching various other microalgae species. In order to produce high value-added materials, we should be able to use sometimes and to a certain extent proven methodologies. And the last part I'd like to talk about is the efficiency. I believe it is quite important to develop the efficient technology. There is a various other methods we can consider, but harvesting method does matter as well. So, in order to make the most of the microalgae, I believe we need to achieve productivity to ensure a high enough yield. This is the end of my comment. Thank you.
So thank you very much. You talked about the energy production and also the environment issues. Truth be told, in our organization, we take a lot of efforts to develop materials, but in order to have some industrial value, safety must be guaranteed. So in other words, we have to ensure a stable supply of safe materials. And you said that the productivity must be guaranteed, and I completely agree with that. So yes, we have destroyed the environment, but we are now conducting a lot of researches. And so, but in order to ensure a stable supply, and we have established the physical infrastructure and so on. And for the microalgae, I think what's important is we have to ensure the stable supply throughout the year and removing all the intermittency or disruptions, and yield must be improved as well. And for microalgae that we have somehow ignored up until today, as well as the biomass, I believe we have to continue our researches to utilize these resources and grow them as an industry. So thank you very much for your comment. We have the foreign speakers joining us virtually, and I believe in the US it's close to the midnight, and in Spain maybe it's very, very early in the morning. Thank you very much once again for your time. And I'm very sorry for your interrupted bio clock. But I believe marine bio is not just an issue of a particular country or particular industry. Rather, this is a common general issue that all humanities should pursue. So once again, thank you very much for your great presentations. But if you have anything to add or any further comments that you would like to make, then I will give you some minutes. So Professor Herbert, do you have anything comment or anything to add aside from the presentation?
No, I don't, but I repeat my thanks for the invitation and express my appreciation for everything that I've learned from this conference. Thank you.
예, 정말 너무 간단.
Thank you very much for your brief comment. It was to the point. Thank you very much. Then I'd like to turn to Professor Huan for his comment. Is there anything you'd like to add on to?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about all these issues that are very relevant nowadays here in Europe. It has been a very interesting discussion here, and I agree with many of the comments that you have already done. You know, here in Europe, the algae sector is an emerging sector. There is a very high interest to develop technology to see how we can proceed for biomass production in a sustainable way. Just one very short comment. We cannot go ahead with algal natural population exploitation. It's very important that we have in mind that the future of the industry is going through cultivation activities that should be sustainable and friendly with the environment. And I'm sure that in the future we will have everything under control for the production of both seaweeds and microalgae. And one important thing is also just to consider that the science we are doing today is a science which is applied, this is very important for the students and the new people coming into the marine bio sector. And we have in mind, we have to consider that we have to be in contact with the new companies, the industry, and see that and consider that what we are doing in science is going to be we are going to develop products, services, and benefits for the society, which is very, very important from this point of view. Just one last comment. It is true, I agree. Still, the industry and the sector is emerging, and particularly here in Europe, in your countries. You have been working with seaweed production during many, many years. But in our place, this is a new emerging sector, and we are identifying bottlenecks that should be work, and we should work on that. And one of them is regulations. In Europe, we don't have a specific regulation for the sector. We are going through the regulation for the aquaculture sector, but algae are a little bit different organisms, and we have to share our ideas, our knowledge, and discuss with the politicians and the industry how we can perform these kind of activities. Just being friendly with the environment, and we have to think how we can improve the mitigation actions for climate change, and how we can perform all this biodiversity conservation, but always thinking that we can provide new products, new services, and benefits for the society in this scenario we are living today. Just is the comment, and I would like to thank the organizers for my invitation. I'm very happy to share all this information with you, and it has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
예, 후안 교수님. 금방 말씀 주신 데 대해
Thank you very much, Professor Huan. I completely agree with what you said. Back in 2014, I visited the Las Palmas University, and I had a tour around the seaweed microalgae center. Spain ardently pursues the researches on microalgae, I believe, and also Spain is very active in utilizing the potential of microalgae, but still, Professor Huan mentioned that we still have a long way to go. So regarding the regulations, you said that the regulations have to be strengthened. In Korea, we have aquaculture promotion law, so we do have the legal background to promote the aquaculture industry. However, still we have a big question mark whether it can be developed as a raw material industry. But anyway, I hope that this industry will continue to contribute to the preservation of the biodiversity, addressing of the global climate issues, and also pursuing the social progress. So thank you very much for your comment. Thank you for your participation, as well as all the good feedback. Thank you very much.
자, 그러면 이어서 이제 마지막으로 우리 김정순 교수님 너무 힘드시겠습니다.
Professor Kim, I believe that you have waited for a long time, so Professor Kim, he is a renowned expert in blue carbon, especially the use of tidal flat. Yesterday, the keynote speaker was the Professor Jeremy Rifkin. He's truly a renowned, esteemed scholar. And at the end of his keynote presentation, we actually had a Q&A session. And he said that we actually have up to 17th World Ocean Forum this year. And what will be the subject for keynote presentation in the next year's 18th World Ocean Forum? And the answer provided by Jeremy Rifkin was that what we have seen so far for the ocean, we thought that the oceans are the sources of resource extraction, something that we have to develop. But he said that we have to take it as the source of life. In other words, oceans are not resources, rather oceans are the source of life. And it really resonated with a lot of people. And we have to be at the vanguard of such efforts. And marine bio should lead this effort. And marine bio also produced the new industry like the blue carbon. So maybe Dr. Kim, any final comment? Thank you very much. We really had a very valuable session today with a lot of great presentations and also a very significant and meaningful discussion. In particular, I'm very pleased to see the presence of high schoolers here in this session. I also got a lot of questions that what does sea or ocean mean for me? And I often say that a sea means a future. So a lot of things are reliant on oceans. One thing that I found very difficult and challenging in doing scientific research is that, let's say, I revealed and discovered a certain mechanism, but then that's all. There was no further steps. But we have to utilize the principles and mechanisms the scientists developed and use them to enrich the lives of people and also to take care of the earth, to take care of the environment. And here, what's important, I believe, is so-called the phase of stagnation, or rather the policies. So no matter how good scientific researches you produce, they should be linked and developed into policies. Otherwise, all the outcomes that we produce from scientific research will exist only in papers, and they cannot benefit anything. And for example, like the biodiversity. So we have to improve biodiversity, and this requires the genetic researches and also the species researches and so on. And in the past, in order to improve biodiversity, we thought that we have to expand the number of organisms or number of species as much as we can. But that's not the right approach. What's important here is to improve functionality. For example, like with the same height, same weight, some people are stronger than others. So, which means that a strong person has a better function than a weak person. So we have to identify which ecosystem or which genes can contribute to better functionality. Of course, nature will evolve anyway, but human beings are intervening too frequently, and that has undermined the functions of the natural ecosystem. So if we could improve the functions of the natural ecosystem, then natural ecosystem will give us better services. In other words, we can enjoy better benefit from the nature. So we really have to preserve the ocean so that we can improve its functionality, which will make everyone happy with better services from the nature. And with that, thank you very much. Yes, so thank you for the great comment. As you know, Korea is poorly endowed with natural resources, and therefore development and conservation, they're always in conflicts, and we always face dilemma whether we have to develop or conservation, whether we have to conserve natural resources. And up until today, we have pursued development and extraction, but now we really have to strike the balance between these two. And I believe science does have a lot of benefit, but many people perceive science as a sort of tool with neutral values. But I think in order to address global issues, yes, the ecosystem does have its natural function to maintain the homeostasis, but with the overfishing, over-intervention by human beings, that functionality or that ability got destroyed. That's why we now see a lot of natural problems and environmental issues. And marine bio is a very important source for marine economy, but we should not exploit that. Rather, we have to optimize the production and consumption. So anyway, this marine bio session was first attempted in this year's World Ocean Forum, and I'm very pleased to see very meaningful and fruitful discussions that we had. Any questions from the floor or any questions from our online audiences? Any questions or any comments? We will open the floor for Q&A.
아차 없이 질문 주시죠. 없으신가요? 자, 그러면
We are all yours. So do you have any question? I don't think there is no question, although we have 7 more minutes to go. I think our discussion has been quite extensive to cover various areas and topics. I hope that this Marine Bio session will develop further, taking in various expert opinions so that we can create a better environment for the entire industry, for the entire human community, and even for the next generation, like the high school students here in person. So thank you very much for your active participation. Thank you. Please give them another round of big applause. Thank you, our 2 international speakers, for joining us till very late hour. And this concludes the Marine Bio session of the 17th World Ocean Forum. And we will take a commemorative photo. Thank you very much. I would like to ask the speaker and the participants and the panelists to come forward.